I relate this experience because today around the world, people don't understand that the vast majority of Muslims, especially those in the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, want to live and let live. Sadly, many Americans don't understand the difference between the Nation of Islam and the Ahmadis, let alone the difference between Sunni Shia or Wahhabi. Sadly, our media will not cover this great event with 1/100th of the time they will spend on radical extremism. It is the responsibility of all of us, me included, to tell the story of hardworking, patriotic, family-oriented Muslims like all of you here today. Now, I've heard many Americans ask questions like, why don't more Muslims speak up against terrorism? Why do Muslims live in their own neighborhoods? Why don't they become more Americanized? Well, like many groups in American history, many Muslims have been treated unfairly and put under unfair scrutiny. The question we have before us is a simple choice. Shall we retreat into enclaves, as some have done, or do we make our case to the United States and to the world the way Ahmadis have done in this country? Just last night, my father and I had a conversation about this. My father is a second-generation Italian-American, grew up in an Italian neighborhood in West Philadelphia. He told me a story of my grandfather being turned down from a local country club because Italians were looked down on. He told me how much my family hated the mafia because of the hyped-up media coverage and how it cast a shadow on the entire Italian people. Much the same way radical extremists has attempted to tarnish the good name of Islam. During World War II, more Italians than any other ethnic group served in World War II on behalf of the Americans. We learned a valuable lesson in that war. And also during World War II, our nation interned Japanese Americans. However, Japanese Americans had a decision. They could either hate this country or they could do what they did and join and fight in the United States Army, becoming the most highly decorated unit, which was the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. Now, why do I say all of this? I say this because we are in a time when all Muslims must follow the lead of Ahmadis and show their patriotism. Now, I'm not asking everyone here to go join the military, but I'm asking you to serve and sacrifice for your country in some way. It could be the volunteer fire department, coaching kids' athletics, but serve in some way. Now, it's my opinion that it is not fair that good Muslims like everyone here today should have to come out and condemn radical attacks when they happen. That's not fair. But sadly, it is necessary. It's not fair that we should have to speak twice as loud to get the American people to hear the great works that the Ahmadiyya Muslim community does. But sadly, it is necessary. And I'll try and make it short and sweet, but I must say, I also believe that it is not fair that Ahmadi Muslims who love their country, who put their family and their faith first, who raise their children right, and do right as they should as good patriotic Americans, should have to work so hard to get people to understand the great people you are. But sadly, that is what we face today. My friends, you and I must speak twice as loud to be heard, because the press doesn't always print good news. The stigma we face is not fair. But in closing, I want to say thank you for standing up and being counted as patriotic American Muslims. I'm proud to call you friends. I'm proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with you. May God bless you. Thank you. I also have a citation. Representative Cohen and I sponsored a citation for the Ahmadiyya Muslim community on this anniversary of your convention. This is read into the House record. And again, thank you all very much for having me.
Thank you, Representative Migarelli, for those inspiring remarks. And to all our guests, the spontaneous cries that you hear are slogans that are tradition in our community to show our exuberance and particular contentment with the remarks that are being made. So we appreciate your acceptance of that cultural tradition. Our next speaker is the Honorable Carlos Sanchez. Representative Sanchez is a Democratic member of the Maryland House of Delegates, representing District 47B. Representative Sanchez was appointed to the chamber on October 9th, 2015. He is a member of the Judiciary Committee from 2015 and is Secretary of the Maryland Legislative Latino Caucus from 2016. He represents the state's only majority Hispanic legislative district. We're delighted to have him.
Thank you. You know, we have a lot of things in common. My parents came into this country in the 1970s, fleeing a country that was on the brink of war, that was seeing violence. And they knew that if they were to have a family, they didn't want to raise it in a country like that. So they came looking where there was peace, where there were opportunities, and that's what led them here. You're looking for the same things. Those are the reasons that you're here now, right? As a matter of fact, the Ahmadi community is doing some great things, not just coming into this country, but also trying to educate, trying to change the way people perceive your religion. In Maryland, I know that we're honored that you have your national headquarters in Silver Spring. It may not be in Prince George's County where I'd like everything to be, but that's close enough, and we do appreciate it. We're also honored to have you there because under the wise leadership of His Holiness, you are standing up, you're leading the way and standing up against the hate and the violence that unfortunately we see unfolding before us every single day. The news is full of these stories, and what it does is it creates this atmosphere, unfortunately, that sometimes all of us get pulled into. Me, as being a representative of the Latino community, we face that as well sometimes. We hear only the negative stories, and it's difficult to get people to understand that there are so many other people that are doing so much good. And I commend you, because I think right now, where we are in our history as a nation, we're facing some difficult periods. And when people make accusations, when people say things that are untrue about you, it is difficult to stand up to that and to not react. But that's what you're doing. You've come up with this platform in which you are showing people how important love is to your religion. How love is the number one guidance that you've received from God to spread that love. And so you are so important because you're fighting against all that negativity that's coming in, that some people are spewing, that's starting to become, unfortunately, a bigger portion of our identity here overall as a country. But it was interesting, in preparation for this, I was reading over the 11 points that you have, and 2 of them really jumped out to me. The first one was that you advocate for the freedom of conscience, the freedom of religion, and the freedom of speech. Those are the tenets that this country was founded on, and you were defending those tenets. The second is that you believe in the loyalty to your country of residence, because unfortunately, I know it. I was born here, and my parents are from a small country in Central America, El Salvador. And sometimes it's difficult to distinguish for people national pride versus cultural pride. I consider myself American, but I know that culturally I'm Salvadorian. And it's beautiful to see that you're preserving your culture while also embracing the country in which you ventured. And this really remains important, as I look around here, yes, many adults, but also many children. And the truth is that as we continue on, what's going to occur is that your children and our children, everyone's children, at some point we're going to be called upon, and we're all going to have to stand side by side, lift our arms up, and push this country towards the goals of acceptance, towards the goals of greatness that we know that this country can achieve. And you are vitally important to that. So I thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I know from the state of Maryland, the General Assembly, we thank you for the work that you're doing in our state. Many blessings to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Sanchez. Our next speaker is a familiar face to many of us, the Honorable Martin Joseph O'Malley, a U.S. presidential candidate. He was the 61st Governor of Maryland from 2007 to 2015. Prior to being elected as governor, he served as the mayor of Baltimore from 1999 to 2007 and was a Baltimore City Councilor from 1991 to 1999. Over his 7 years as mayor, Governor O'Malley's policies helped the people of Baltimore achieve the greatest crime reduction of America's largest cities. We're very delighted to welcome Governor O'Malley to our convention.
Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Peace be with you. It is a great honor to gather here with all of you in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And I extend greetings to all of the distinguished platform dignitaries, Ambassador, to Representative Cohen, Representative Micarelli, Delegate Sanchez, and to all of you. It's a great honor to be here with all of you at this important time. I want to I understand that we have people representing the Ahmadiyya Muslim community from all over the world. And I also understand, you will forgive me given the fact that this is an election year and I just came from a relatively sleepless 5 days in Philadelphia. If the remarks I share with you are remarks of reflection about the United States of America, the important role of religious liberty, freedom of conscience, that those values play in our country and in the future of this world. I have certainly read and have been in awe of the travel schedule of His Holiness Mirza Masroor Ahmad, this man of peace who has traveled to over 200 countries throughout the world. A man who can walk into any nation, sit down with civic leaders, elected officials, heads of state, and still have one clear, truthful message. That in fact there is only one superpower in this world, and that is the power of love. The True Islam campaign is a gift. It is a gift to understanding and awareness the world over. The True Islam campaign underscoring the freedom of conscience, freedom of religion, charity, compassion, kindness, and generosity to strangers. These are the values, the true values of Islam. And they are values that have been demonstrated so very, very profoundly the world over by the tremendous work of the Humanity First campaign. Its executive director, my friend, Munum Naeem, the executive director of Humanity First, with its world headquarters in Silver Spring, Maryland. Silver Spring, Maryland. Maryland, a state that was itself founded for religious freedom and religious liberty. You know, when we gather here today in Harrisburg, we are not very far away from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, where we have a couple people from Gettysburg who made the commute. Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and the Gettysburg Address, where Abraham Lincoln, that great Republican leader who extolled our common humanity, who asked the question whether a government of the people, by the people, and for the people should indeed last and not perish from this earth. It is a question asked in every generation. It is a question that we must answer here in our own time. You know, it has been said by an Irish poet that darkness is the canvas against which beauty and light can be seen most clearly. And certainly in the politics of the United States of America, there is plenty of dark canvas. And we must shine against that dark canvas. We must be an alternative to that darkness. I was in Philadelphia for the last 4 or 5 days. I saw tremendous moments of oratory from Michelle Obama, from Barack Obama, from Joe Biden, from many people. But the moment of that convention that I will always remember, that touched my heart deeply and the hearts of every American deeply, were the words of that Gold Star couple, Hazar Khan and his stoic and courageous wife. And he looked directly into the camera and he told that being a spokesperson of darkness that you know nothing of sacrifice and you have sacrificed no one. He challenged that voice of darkness to even read the Constitution of the United States, whose preamble begins, "We the people." The work that builds up a great republic is not anger, it is not fear. It is the work of our common humanity, knowledge for life, global health, learning a skill, disaster relief, water for life, feeding the hungry. These are the values of all humanity, and these are the values to which we must align ourselves as a nation if we are to be a powerful force for love and acceptance and understanding. You know, I come from Baltimore, Maryland, the original land of the free and the home of the brave, the birthplace of the Star-Spangled Banner. And true story about that incident in American history, when it seemed like our entire republic was hanging by a thread. The people of Baltimore, rather than fleeing in the night, instead joined together. Half of the defenders of Baltimore at that time, when the British Army bore down upon us with their shock and awe campaign of its day, half of the defenders were actually immigrants, or the children of immigrants. 1 out of 5 were black citizens of still as yet very imperfect country. And the hands which actually stitched together that gigantic Star-Spangled Banner, the hands that stitched them together were in the home of a seamstress named Mary Pickersgill. And the records tell us that some of those people, that in her household were not only her daughters who helped sew together that flag, but also a little indentured African-American servant girl named Grace. Hands of bondage, hands of freedom, stitching together the stars and stripes. And I would submit to you that the thread that held that flag together then is the same thread that unites us here today in Harrisburg and throughout the United States. It is the thread of our common humanity, human dignity, truth about ourselves, respect for one another, compassion for all. And these are the values that has made your community a beacon of light in this world and a beacon of light in the United States. I leave you with the words of a great American also from Maryland, named Frederick Douglass, who probably summed up the truth and the beauty and the light of our nation best when he said, "We are one, Our cause is one, and we must help each other if we are to succeed. Inshallah, may it ever be so.
Thank you, Governor O'Malley, for those inspiring remarks. Our next speaker is the Honorable Bakari Portu Stevens. He is the Ambassador of Sierra Leone to the United States, a Sierra Leonean diplomat. He's the permanent representative to the World Bank and the IMF, and he is the son of Sierra Leone's first president, Siaka Stevens. We're delighted to have Ambassador Stevens back with us, and we invite him to share his remarks.
I bring you greetings from the President of the